Hello to everyone, here is our Lithuanian radio program Blind Meeting with Irma Jokštytė and my colleague Kristijonas Bartoševičius. Here we have conversations with various people from all over the world about the different sides and different colors of life. And today's our guest is an American Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter and guitarist Raul Midon. Enjoy listening.
So first of all, about your music, how your life of musician started.
Well, I think, I figured out as a very young person that I enjoyed music. We had records and stuff like that. So my dad is also, my father is also very musically inclined. So we started to play drums. It was the 70s, so we would sit and play bongos all the time and stuff, And that's how it started, really, just listening to records. And then I started getting guitar lessons when I was about 6. So actually, interesting that you're doing a show with Blind in it. My new album is called Badass and Blind.
Yeah, I saw this, and this is a really good name. Why did you decide to call it like that?
Well, I actually decided because I have been producing my own records now for a few years now. I have a computer program that allows me to engineer and record my own stuff, on a professional level. And I wanted people to ask me about it, but they would never ask me about it. And, they would always ask me, oh, how was it like to work with Stevie Wonder and, blah, 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 which is fine, but after a while, it's like, man, I want to talk about what I'm doing. I'm really proud of. And so I thought if I call the record Badass and Blind, then that'll give me a chance. And it worked.
So you, let's come back for a minute to Stevie Wonder. You were working together for some time?
No, we worked... Basically, I made my album State of Mind with a legendary producer, Raul Midon, Turkish producer who produced a lot of people, Hall & Oates and everybody. And so he knew Stevie Wonder. So he called Stevie Wonder and said, hey, I want you to do something with this artist that I'm working with. So he played on my album, and then we did a program on television together. No, it was, that too, but I did an event of his called House Full of Toys. It's a kind of a charity event that he does in L.A. every year. So, but that's it. That's the extent to which we work together.
Are there people who, trying to compare you to Stevie Wonder?
I don't think there's any. First of all, Stevie Wonder is a household name. I'm certainly not that. It's just completely different time. I have, lots of influences from Stevie Wonder, but I don't think there's any comparison.
Okay.
You worked cooperating with many other singers. Could you compare those experiences? Does the blindness have matter on it, or just there was different experience with different singers?
I think blindness actually in some ways helps you, only in the sense that, in this business, basically what you're doing, if you want to put it to brass tacks, as we say in America, is everybody's trying to be remembered. Everybody's trying to get attention. And blindness helps people remember, oh yeah, that's that blind guy. So even now with, Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, there's not that many blind people at a high level in the music business. Really. So it helps in that way. Other than that, I've had a chance to work with some of my, sort of heroes. And it's been, I worked with Herbie Hancock. I've worked with Marcus Miller. I've worked with Bill Withers. I've worked with Liz Wright and Diane Reeves. And, just some really, really great artists. And I think in a way, it's just about the music. I don't think me being blind really had much to do with it. It was just kind of a musical respect,
So what do you create about what inspires you, and about what your songs are?
Some of my songs are about what all songs are about. You know, I write some love songs. I've actually lately been trying to write from a blind perspective because I don't think that's been done that much. So I'm working on a series of poems about being blind and trying to create imagery, if I can use that term, from a blind perspective without borrowing visual images that are abstract to me. So from a hearing, smelling, tasting, touching point of view. Because writing is very visual in a lot of ways. It's very visual. You know, there's a lot of imagery. There's a lot of description of the environment, of color, of, you know. And so can I create a language or use the language in a way that describes my experience that other people will be able to relate to? That's kind of my project at the moment. But as far as, you know, what I write about, I mean, as I say, I write a lot about relationships. I write a lot about, I tend to write about ideas. I'm very philosophical. So there's some songs that are, you know, sort of big ideas. You know, I was almost a philosophy minor in college. So I studied, you know, Schopenhauer and Nietzsche and Hegel and, you know, all of that. So I tend to write about ideas as well.
Me as a not blind person is all the time interesting. During my shows, I already asked some Lithuanian artists about the fear of stage. Did you have such thing, at least at the beginning, you know, or at some certain period of time, or it was just not fear of the stage anytime?
I was a very shy person as a, you know, off the stage, but I've always been kind of ready to, like, yeah, put me on the stage and I'll, you know. But I think, yeah, and depending on what the situation is, I can't say that I've never been nervous. I mean, the first time I was on TV on David Letterman's show, I was nervous. The first time I did Carnegie Hall, I was nervous. But I mean, generally, I don't have stage fright. I mean, I think you develop a certain amount of confidence. You develop a mindset where you focus before, you know, you go on and you're like, okay, you know, the next, you know, 90 minutes is all about being completely focused on what I'm doing and nothing else matters.
It's a big honor that you came to Lithuania for a second time. Yeah. Do you remember something from your previous show?
Well, I'm always very surprised at the response I get here because I don't, you know, it's not like France or something where I go a lot, you know. So I'm always surprised that people know the music and that they, you know the words. And I'm also surprised when I go to some place where English is not necessarily the first language, that people are still very much, you know, sort of understand what I'm saying and at least relate to it even on a musical level.
I was in your show in 2014 in Tamsta Club, and when I realized and understood that you're coming to Vilnius, I started, you know, to shout on the city to my friends, and do you know that Raul Midon is coming? And a lot of people said that, who is he, you know? I said, you know, he's a wonderful musician, and he's coming just to a really small club. I mean, in Lithuanian terms, it's like a, let's say, average venue, but still it's let me say that as for you as a musician, it is small venue. So it's nice that this time you'll perform in a bigger venue. Do you feel any difference when this is more chamber environment and this is when it's like a huge venue?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a different type of thing. When you're playing in a big venue, the audience tends to be further away. And so it's a different kind of, when a really small venue can be really fun because it's really, really intimate. And, you know, you're literally, I don't know, three feet away from the nearest person. I like bigger venues just because, you know, the pay's better.
Yeah, that's great. I would like to come back a little more to the process of doing music, of creating music, how do you feel better when you cooperate with someone, with some artists working together, or when you create something or do the music alone as a solo musician?
Well, music, in a sense, is a cooperative art in the sense of creating the actual sound. Now, creating the material is a solitary art. In other words, when I'm writing a song, I generally tend to write alone, although I've collaborated. That's a whole different thing. I think both. I mean, I really love, I do a lot of solo shows. I also play with bands. There are great virtues to both. Playing in a band, obviously, you're getting energy and vibing off other people, and that always kind of leads to unpredictable things happening, and mostly good things. There is something also great about just you on the stage, and you have absolute freedom. You know, I've created a situation where I have absolute freedom to do whatever I want. For all of the trials and tribulations of doing this, the freedom that I have is something that I really cherish, you know.
I would like also to point at your family a little bit. I know that you are from twins, right? So do you feel that special connection that twins have, and is your brother a musician too?
You know, it's a funny thing with my brother. We grew up together, and we were together for a long time, 24 hours a day, basically. And, you know, we both went through the same, you know, thing together of being blind and trying to function in the world. And, you know, my brother ended up becoming an electrical engineer, works at NASA. Interestingly enough, in the past few years, we have kind of been estranged. I think what happened, we had this incredible closeness, and then we kind of went and did our own lives. And then when we came back, I think there was an expectation that we would sort of pick up where we left off. And, you know, the family can impose roles. So my role was always that I was the little brother. And so when we came back, when I moved back to be close to him, he wanted me to be the little brother, and I didn't want to be the little brother. So we're kind of estranged right now.
I liked very much how you said we had to find our ways to function in this world. So have you found your way, and how much music helped you to find that way?
I mean, in a strange way, and this is a tough thing sometimes, but, you know, I'm kind of defined in a way by music. In some ways, you know, I mean, music is the way, you know, as a blind person, obviously, you know, it's pretty tough to, you know, find, how do you get a job? How do you, you know, actually, you know, do you live with your parents the whole time? I mean, how do you, you know, actually get out and create a life for yourself? And for me, music created that ability for me to buy a house and, you know, have a wife and have, you know, some of the things that, you know, everybody wants, you know, companionship and, you know, a certain amount of material and financial security. And, you know, all of that was because of, you know, pursuing my gift for music, really. It's a very big part of it. And it helped me to create, you know, I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for that.
Me and my colleague Kristijonas, we were discussing before this interview about different situations. And, you know, me as a blind person, I get much of attention from people around me while walking alone, while living. So this attention, which comes just because I'm blind, is the one which sometimes disturbs me. And you, as a popular person, you get also additional attention. So do these kinds of attention merge together or confuse among each other, and how you deal with that? Isn't it tiring to get so much of attention?
It is, and I will tell you that because I'm on stage and because I'm all over the world, I tend to be a bit of a loner. I mean, I'm the kind of person that will, stay in my hotel room and read instead of, go out and go. Not that I never go out, I do. But yeah, I tend to need to balance it out with time alone. Because like when I'm out, I have to basically, especially if I'm out in, in a country that I don't know how to walk around here. So I have to be with somebody all the time. I'm a person that, I'm a writer and, I create and I read and I practice. So I spend a lot of time alone when I travel. And it's part of the way that I stay balanced. As far as getting attention, that's something that I've actually kind of come to terms with. I used to hate the idea of walking around and people staring at me. And I know they're staring at me and I know they're like, mouths are open and now it's like, it's like, what, if somebody feels uncomfortable, it's their problem. It's not my problem. But also, of course, I have the, people are paying attention to me because of my music, not because I'm blind. So that, yes, the two things do merge, actually, in a way. Because it's not just, oh, poor blind guy. It's like, oh, that guy is, guitar player and, and this and that. So it takes a lot of time, or it took me a lot of time to kind of get through that and say, hey, I'm, some people are short, some people are, mentally deficient, that blindness just happens to be kind of out there, but it doesn't really make you that different. It's just something about you. It's one thing about you.
During our shows, we're trying to erase that border to tell people that, blindness is just a feature?
I would say a way of living.
Okay, a way of living. And it's not like which differs people just only to blind and non-blind. Right. Do you agree with such thinking on such a concept?
I mean, we're all human beings. We all basically want the same things. And blindness just means that you have to approach the world a little differently with a little more emphasis on certain things than other things. And I think people have trouble with that because the visual sense is so overpowering for people. I mean, people imagine themselves being blind and don't realize that those of us who have been blind all our lives, it's not the same thing. So we're not in the dark, right? We're not in the dark. I mean, I've always said, to be happy, you have to know what sadness is. To be in the dark, you have to see light. Oh, you see black? No, I don't, really.
Me, as a sighted person, I all the time, have this question. Do you agree or do you disagree whether blind people, they do hear better or do they have better, sound? I know, Irma, the answer, she's laughing. But, do you agree with such perception that, they hear better or they might listen better or in music?
The answer is no. But I will say this. It's like anything else. When you rely upon a sense, then you're more in tune to it. You don't hear better. It's like people say, well, does it make you a better musician? No, absolutely not. And most of the great musicians I know can see. But if your survival depends on recognizing voices, then you're going to pay more attention to people's voices. So it's a matter of what you pay attention to. A lot of people that see are very, very aware of looks and very aware of faces, and very, people say, well, do you have a picture of my face, and I'm like, no, I really don't, and I really don't care what your face looks like. Oh, do you want to touch my, no, I don't, because I don't want you touching my face. No, I mean, it doesn't matter that much to me. I think it's hard for people to realize that. Like, I could talk to a person who is physically ugly, quote unquote. And if they have something to say, then I will be attracted to that. I don't care what they look like. And and it's very difficult. I mean, I talk, especially guys on the road, oh, come on, Raul, don't you want to know if she's, fat? And I was like, no, I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I don't want you to tell me. You don't need to tell me, oh, that girl's ugly. I don't care. As a matter of fact, I'd rather you didn't. I really feel strongly about that, actually. And I feel like that's a perspective that I cherish, that I'm not caught up in that image thing. Like that's why I love the Ray Charles movie, but I really disliked the whole thing about, I can feel their wrists and tell if they're beautiful or not. And please.
I was remembering the movie myself and what do you think of that?
To me, all that says is you care what the people around you that see think of the woman you're with. And to me, that's just jive. To me, that's my opinion. To me, that's baloney. Because at the end of the day, really, you're going to spend your life with a woman that other people think is good looking, or you're going to spend your life with a woman that you really love, that you really have an understanding with?
I wanted to ask something from your trips. You have concerts in many countries of the world. What differences do you feel traveling among them?
It's hard to explain, but I feel energy from places. Like, I don't know, there's a general, like, is there a general feeling of happiness or well-being, or is there I feel that. A big one for me is I always want to eat local when I'm here. I don't want to go to McDonald's when I'm in another country. I don't even want to go when I'm in America. But I want to eat something local from the place that I go. That's a big one for me.
Do you recognize sounds from the cities or from the venues or from the people?
Yeah, I mean, cities have a certain sound, and it's actually something that I've wanted to do, but then I end up I've wanted to document cities and the sound of cities, and I just haven't done it yet. But because I get someplace and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out and do this, and then instead I end up going to my hotel and taking a nap. So. But yeah, they definitely have a sound, and the language has a sound to it also. It's something that I aspire to, even writing something about each city, opening myself up to the feeling, just whatever I feel, and write it. But it's something that I haven't done yet, but I want to do.
Do you have your favorite countries? Where would you like to come back for sure?
Oh, sure. I mean, there are countries that are very receptive to me as an artist, so I like that. There's countries that I've been to a lot that I love France, I must say. The audience, France was one of the first places that really sort of where I started having bigger shows and stuff, and so that's one. Japan is someplace I love going as well, but every country has something special, and I try to tune into that, when I go. And as I say, it's very surprising to me always when I go someplace that that I don't go to a lot, and then people come out and and love the music.
Do you have any initial expectations to a countries which you're going to?
I used to, but I don't anymore, because I found that the expectations are always wrong. I try to go and just do the best that I can. Sometimes I learn a little something in the language to say on the microphone. How do you say thank you in Lithuanian?
We say it ačiū.
Ačiū?
Yeah, correct.
And also, one of the last questions, what evaluation as the musician, as the music artist, which feedback is most significant, most meaningful for you?
Well, when I'm signing autographs or something and somebody says, we played your song at our wedding, that, your song was the first dance, and that is really, anytime that you get into somebody's life on that level, that's a gift. That's something that moves me every time. I've had people say, you know, my mother, my friend was dying of cancer, and the last song they wanted to hear was your song, you know, stuff like that. That's crazy. You know, that's when you know that, you know, on some level, you're doing something wonderful, you know.
That's really impressive. You just recently were nominated by the Grammy. How do you feel? And was it the first time, if I'm right, yeah?
It was awesome. I mean, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and, you know, in so many strange ways, everything's relative, you know, because I have a very, you know, nice career. I make a good living. And in certain ways, you know, I should be happy, you know. But in other ways, you know, it's like I'm relatively unknown in the sense of, you know, somebody like Stevie Wonder or, you know. So being nominated for the Grammy for me was great, you know, because it kind of brought my name into the mainstream again, and people that, you know, my neighbors even, you know, like they didn't say, oh, wow, you must really be good. You know, yeah, exactly, you know, like, and then all of a sudden they take you seriously. Like, oh, shit. You know, the sort of people in the business or people that just know me, you know, sort of casually and says, yeah, he's a, I don't really know what he does, but he's a musician. You know, to be nominated for a Grammy, all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, he's a musician. You know, he must be pretty good. I don't really know what he does, but it must be pretty good.
What would you like to achieve else in the future in terms of music?
Do you have future plans?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, it's funny because I definitely went to New York for, you know, I was ambitious. I wanted fame. I wanted, you know, and now I'm kind of in a point where I'm okay with just going home and working on music and letting the chips fall where they fall and not being so preoccupied with, well, is this record going to sell a bunch of records, or is this going to be commercially successful? Or, you know, it's like I'm at a point where I have a career, so I don't have to worry necessarily about, you know, starving, you know. So now I can just kind of say, I want to work on, I'm doing a record with an orchestra, you know, it's going to come out this year. So that's the first time. And I'm really excited about doing performances with orchestras. I've never done that before. So that's going to be really exciting. I can be more concerned with continuing to advance myself as a musician and as an artist, and not be as worried about what commercial success I might achieve or not.
Great, Raul. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure and, you know, nice, funny time to talk to you.
Many thanks to Raul Midon for this wonderful time, and to everyone who is listening to us. Don't hesitate to leave your feedback in the comment section. And for Lithuanian listeners, I'll remind that our radio program runs every Sunday, 12:15 p.m. local time in Gold FM. However, the English versions you usually can find in this YouTube channel and our Facebook page.